Since its full release in February 2024, Last Epoch has carved a distinct place in the action RPG landscape. This ambitious title from 11 Hour Games not only entered a crowded genre with established titans like Path of Exile 1 and 2 and Diablo 4, but also managed to find its own voice through a blend of accessibility and depth that resonated with both veterans of the ARPG genre and newcomers alike. And in this video, I will go over what the game offers since its launch, what's coming in its Season 2 update, my honest thoughts and opinions about the game, and if it's worth your time and money. Yes, Last Epoch is not free to play, but even though the game is not free, it does offer quite an adventure. And for this adventure, Last Epoch offers you the following 5 base classes. First one is the Sentinel, which is the typical warrior or knight type class with lots of support for armor, shields, and melee, including the ability to dual wield. Next up is the Rogue, the classic bow and arrow ranger or dagger wielding assassin that kills from the shadows or from the air via a unique class that also gives you a pet. After that, the Mage is your classic elemental spellcaster who uses fire, lightning, and cold damage types to destroy their foes. Next, number 4 on the list, the Primalist, which is a versatile class that makes use of some elemental spells, totems, and transformations to deal physical, lightning, cold, and poison damage to annihilate his foes. And last but not least, the Acolyte, the dark magic user who uses minions, curses, blood, necrotic, and poison damage to destroy her foes. And these base classes can evolve into mastery classes, each offering unique playstyles. The Sentinel has the Void Knight. This is your void power DPS and damage over time Dark Knight, who has the interesting feature of creating echoes that have the mechanic to create a copy of a skill a short period after that skill was used. Next is the Forge Guard. This one focuses on physical damage, which includes the ailment bleed, throwing damage, and summoning weapons or a living armor as minions to fight alongside you. And finally, your classic Paladin, themed around fire damage and healing, tanking using tons of armor and health, and occasionally it can also deal bleed and lightning damage. And if you really love the Sentinel class, well, in the upcoming Season 2 Tombs of the Erased update for Last Epoch, significant enhancements are planned for the Sentinel class, aiming to improve its overall gameplay experience, making it more versatile and engaging for players who love tanky, melee-focused builds. The Volatile Reversal skill is getting a full rework to make it feel smoother and more impactful in builds. More defensive tools are being introduced, making the Sentinel less reliant on just damage mitigation and more reliant on active defense mechanics. The Forge Guard Mastery is getting a new cool passive, which lets you wield a two-handed weapon and a shield simultaneously, creating new hybrid tank damage playstyles. And besides all of this, the entire Sentinel skill set is being updated to provide better mobility and defensive options, addressing previous limitations compared to other classes. Also, numerous passive nodes are being reworked or added to offer more diverse and effective build possibilities. Next is Rogue, where we have the Blade Dancer, your classic dagger-wielding assassin who throws daggers, shurikens, and uses smoke bombs to hide and dodge hits or even amplifying damage. Regarding damage types, you got physical and poison as your main damage types, and a limited support for fire damage. Next for the Rogue is the Marksman, which is actually the Ranger class in every other game, so if you like to play only bow and arrow, this is your pick. Via this class you have access to physical, poison, fire, lightning, and cold damage types, which gives you the option to build either a damage over time Marksman or an elemental Marksman as well. And last for the Rogue is the Falconeer. If you like to play bow and arrow or with daggers, but you also want a pet, well, the name of this class says it all. The Falconeer gives you a pet falcon that is immune to damage, which in return helps you to focus on dealing tons of damage with the falcon without caring about its health bar at all. And as for damage types, the Falconeer specializes in physical, poison, lightning, or fire damage types. And with the upcoming 1.2 update, the Marksman class is getting a new physical damage skill called Heartseeker that fills a notable gap in their toolkit. The skill works by firing an arrow that ignores obstacles to hit your target directly. What makes it interesting is the recurve mechanic. After hitting, the arrow has a chance to loop back and strike again. The chance starts at 100% for the first recurve, then decreases with each loop. If your target dies, the arrow can find a new nearby enemy to continue its path. Based on what the dev team has shown so far, the Heartseeker seems to be well designed for both boss encounters and group clearing, giving marksman players more versatility without having to switch skills constantly. The ability to target enemies across significant distances coupled with a recurve mechanic should make for some satisfying gameplay. While it's too early to know exactly how it will fit into the meta, the skill brings some fresh mechanics that should give marksman builds more options when the update drops. Now let's move on to the Mage, where we first have the classic Sorcerer, who specializes in fire, lightning, and cold range spells or big elemental AoE damage. Next we have the Spellblade. This is your fantasy melee spellcaster if you fancy swinging swords and casting fire, lightning, and cold spells at the same time. And finally, the Rune Master, which is a unique elemental spellcaster class. By using its class skill, Runic Invocation, you can combine up to 3 rune element types, which can lead up to a total of 40 different spell combinations you can cast. This unique combo mechanic makes the Rune Master a really unique class to this genre. Now, moving on to my favorite class, the Primalist. And here we have, first, the Beastmaster, where if you want to command a selective army of animals, then this class is for you. Wolves, crows, bears, scorpions, raptors, serpents, and even saber-toothed tigers are at your command, ready to deal damage to everything in front of them. Next is the Druid. This class lets you transform into 3 forms: the Werebear, the Swarmblade, which is a big flying praying mantis, and the last form, the Spriggan, which makes you into a walking tree looking like an older Groot. Each transformation has its own set of skills apart from your base skills, but they do depend on how you customize your base skills. Besides transformation, you also have the power to launch Entangling Roots and summon additional Spriggan minions to help you fight, or, in the case of the Swarmblade, an army of locusts. And the final one for the Primalist is the Shaman, the classic totems and elemental spells class that also lets you combine different animals with elements to help you fight better. You can use ice, lightning, wind in the form of tornadoes, and even earthquakes to clear out entire packs of monsters. And the last class on the list, the Acolyte, has the following 3 masteries. First is the Necromancer, your undead and otherworldly minion master, where you command a single mighty powerful minion or a vast army of them and use them as you see fit. The second mastery is the Lich, a master of the dark arts who deals necrotic, poison, and physical damage through the use of blood magic. Also, this class gives you the unique skill to turn into your Reaper form, which lets you deal tons of damage at the cost of your health. And finally, the Warlock, the damage overtime specialist that uses curses, fire, necrotic, poison, and physical damage types to obliterate her enemies, which in turn makes the Warlock a truly terrifying archetype. One thing I've appreciated is how Last Epoch made each mastery feel distinct. Despite sharing a base class, these advanced classes provide completely different experiences. For example, the Druid Werebear lets you feel like a walking tank with tons of damage and durability, while the Lightning Totem build for the Shaman offers incredible AoE potential. And I hope that the developers will add more mastery classes and more skills to some mastery classes in the future, or even entirely new classes with new unique masteries. I mean, I would love to see the Acolyte manipulate bones not just to summon minions, but to also deal damage with them, or add more blood magic to one of the masteries, or even a monk type class that uses combos without weapons, which would also introduce more unarmed combat into the game. Or maybe a new weapon type, which would be the fists or something similar. Or, here's a wild idea, a Geomancer Mastery, which is a rare class in most RPGs and ARPG games, and it would go well with either the Mage or the Primalist as a new mastery entirely. Now let's talk about skills, gameplay, and game mechanics. The gameplay is both engaging and addictive, and most of its quirks have been ironed out. One of the things that stands out with Last Epoch is the skill system. Once you gain a skill and add it to your skill bar, you unlock that skill's specialization tree, which means you can specialize each ability to match the build you desire to play. Whether you're turning your normal wolves into wolves that deal lightning damage, or boosting the damage of your thorn totems, Last Epoch lets you tweak and modify your skills in ways that feel meaningful and impactful. You gain skills by leveling, by adding passive points to your masteries, and from a few items, but those skills act more like passive skills, or change the mechanic of a specific skill. You can even customize your skills to trigger based on item conditions, or trigger by automating them with other skills or conditions. One cool thing about the skills in Last Epoch is that skill respecking is free, but when you remove a point, you are basically de-leveling the skill, so you need to level it up again in order to add points somewhere in the tree. Skill despecialization, on the other hand, gives you all the points back, but it removes the skill from the skill bar. You can respec your masteries too, but these cost gold based on how many points are allocated in the skill, and also based on its placement on the passive tree. And with so many options, you might think that making builds must be hard or complex, like in other ARPGs of this nature. But it's actually the opposite. Since we do not have massive skill trees and passive trees, it is way easier to experiment and combine skills and passives, and all skills and passives give you a lot of information in their descriptions to understand how to combine and maximize them. And since respecking only costs XP for releveling skills and gold for rearranging passive points, You can experiment as much as you want until you get your desired build on your own. The only big downside with skills in Last Epoch is that you have only 6 skills to map. 5 to your skill bar, and the 6th to another key. And if you're wondering what the 6th skill is, well, that's the Evade skill. Its animation along with general movement feels smooth and satisfying, especially for classes like the Blade Dancer. Also, another cool thing about the Evade skill is that we have one. The game started out without one, but the community banded together and asked the developers to add some form of dodge roll. And they have listened and delivered. This shows that 11 Hour Games loves what they're doing and are willing to listen and adapt as much as possible. Now, while still on the movement topic, walking over gold automatically collects it. Same goes for potions if you have 0 potions or fewer than your belt limit, or if you have low health. Yes, in Last Epoch you can walk over potions mid-combat to replenish your health, and not only walk over, but you can also use the evade skill to dodge roll over them, and the effect will be the same. Now, another thing regarding gathering, if you have a ton of shards or runes on the floor, you just need to click on one of them and all of them are gathered. And after that, you can just one-click transfer them to your crafting resource storage. Another 3 cool click mechanics we have in the game are auto sort inventory and stash with one click, right click to equip items, and control right click to automatically sell items or send them to the stash or vice versa. Oh, and speaking of the stash, you can buy stash tabs with the gold you farm in game. You can even have tab clusters with multiple tabs in them, give them a color, a name, and even an icon so you know what each tab contains. Now, another super cool mechanic that Last Epoch has, it's under the form of shrines. These appear randomly on the map and can offer defensive buffs, offensive buffs, or even skills from your class or other classes you can passively use. But these shrines are not limited only to that. They also offer gold, crafting resources, and even loot lizards, which I'll cover in the item section of this video. Now, let's move on and talk about combat mechanics. Last Epoch features real-time, skill-based combat, but with more flexibility in movement and dodge mechanics. Every attack, ability, and dodge must be manually aimed, adding a layer of precision and skill. Enemy attacks are based on actual hitboxes, meaning positioning plays a crucial role in surviving through encounters. Many boss mechanics require movement and reaction-based dodging, rather than just relying on resistances or stats, and some bosses feature multi-phase fights, requiring players to react to mechanics rather than just out-damaging the boss. Luckily, most bosses use telegraphed attacks, which give you the chance to dodge, reposition, or counter the attack effectively. For example, the Warcry from the Primalist can stop some attacks of some bosses. Now, let's talk about defenses. In Last Epoch, you got your classic ARPG defenses like life regeneration, armor, dodge, block, several types of damage reduction, and crowd control debuffs like fear, stun, slow, and so on. And you also have your classic elemental and ailment resistances. Fire, cold, and lightning for elemental, and physical, poison, necrotic, and void for ailments. And of course, all of them can be capped at 75%. But Last Epoch also has several unique types of defenses. And first on the list is the Ward, which acts like a shield over your HP, and any damage you take is taken first from your ward before your HP. And the best part is that nothing can surpass the ward and damage your HP directly. So until you hit 0 ward, you are safe and sound. But even so, the ward is not perfect, because ward decay exists, and it happens over time, even if you stand still. Furthermore, the more ward you have, the faster it will decay. This is to control how much ward you can accumulate at any given time. But fear not, you have the possibility to slow the decay through ward retention, which you can obtain through passives, gear, skills, and the intelligence stack. Next, let's talk about Endurance, which is a unique defensive layer that provides substantial one-shot protection. Endurance activates after a player reaches a certain HP threshold and then provides damage reduction to all types of damage, including damage over time. But even so, Endurance is not perfect. If you receive damage that is above the threshold, then the damage is only partially mitigated. For example, if you have a threshold of 1000 and you receive 1500 points of damage, then only 1000 points will be mitigated and the rest of 500 points will hit you. Next on the list is Critical Strike Avoidance, which lowers the likelihood that enemies deal massive amounts of critical damage to you based on the percent of critical strike avoidance you have. And if you reach 100% critical strike avoidance, critical damage will have no effect on you, basically making you immune to critical damage. Now, the last unique defense mechanism on the list is the Glancing Blow, which is exclusive to the Rogue class. Glancing Blow reduces the damage taken from hits by 35%. Unfortunately, damage over time cannot be reduced by Glancing Blows. And like with Critical Strike Avoidance, Glancing Blows can be capped at 100%. Another gameplay feature that stands out is the in-game help system. It's one of the best I've ever seen in an ARPG. Everything you need to know is clearly explained, whether it's crafting, skill mechanics, or game systems. Now let's talk about the campaign, environment, and the game design. Last Epoch offers a rich campaign experience, intricately designed across 9 chapters that span multiple eras, each contributing to a deep and immersive narrative. Players begin their journey in the Divine Era, a time when gods and humans coexist. This chapter introduces the foundational lore and mechanics. Transitioning to the Ruin Era for chapters 2 and 3, players witness a world devastated by the Void, encountering remnants of civilization and confronting Void-infused adversaries. Chapter 4, 5, and 6 are set in the Imperial Era. These chapters delve into the rise and dominance of the Immortal Empire, exploring themes of power and corruption. Returning to the Divine Era, the concluding chapters 7, 8, and 9 focus on resolving the central conflicts and restoring balance to Eterra. This campaign structure allows players to traverse these eras, each offering unique environments, challenges, and storylines. This time-traveling mechanic enriches the gameplay, providing varied experiences as players influence and witness the evolution of Eterra across different periods. Now, you may have noticed that there is another era in the game that I have not mentioned while presenting the campaign. The Ancient Era in Last Epoch represents the world's earliest epoch, a time when Eterra, the primordial goddess, shaped the land and life flourished in its most primal forms. This era is characterized by vast forests, untamed jungles, and the dominance of majestic creatures such as dragons. Eterra herself resided in a celestial temple, cohabiting with early humans, separated from the terrestrial dragons. However, her sudden disappearance led to the temple's fall, making a pivotal moment in Eterra's history. Presently, the Ancient Era is accessible through specific side quests, allowing players to explore its unique landscapes and confront era-specific challenges. While these quests offer a glimpse into the Ancient Era lore, the content remains limited, leaving many aspects of the Ancient Era unexplored. Now don't worry, EHG has outlined a roadmap indicating plans to expand the Ancient Era's narrative and gameplay in future updates. I left a link in the description if you want to check it out. Now, if you made a new character but do not want to grind the campaign again, you can use the dungeon system, which besides items, it also offers an alternate leveling system that is basically a shortcut to the endgame. So you can just speedrun until chapter 3, where you unlock the first dungeon, go through it, and then rinse and repeat for the rest of the dungeons, and then you'll reach the last chapter of the campaign, which you can skip and just jump into the monoliths, and then whenever you want, you can go and finish the side quests that give you passive points and idols. Now let's move on and talk about the game environment and its design. Visually, the game is great, but still not perfect. The environments are varied, with each era in the game offering a distinct atmosphere. From ancient ruins to futuristic void-torn landscapes, Last Epoch manages to successfully keep things fresh. Recently, the game has received a much-needed graphical engine update, which has significantly transformed its visual and auditory landscape, enhancing the overall player experience. But there is still room for more. The introduction of dynamic screen space shadows adds depth and realism to various scenes, enhancing and enriching the visual experience. Enhanced volumetric lighting techniques have been implemented, allowing the light sources to interact more realistically with environmental elements like fog and particles. This creates immersive atmospheres, such as illuminated rain during thunderstorms, adding to the game's depth. A unified vegetation shader system ensures consistent shading and lighting for all flora, enabling dynamic interactions like wind effects that contribute to a more lifelike environment. The combination of these visual upgrades results in a more immersive and engaging world. Players can expect environments that respond dynamically to in-game events, with improved textures and lighting, creating a cohesive and atmospheric experience. The sound design has been overhauled to match visual improvements. Skills now feature sounds that convey a sense of power and impact, aligning with its visual effects. While Last Epoch has made strides in visual and auditory aspects, there is still room for more improvement, like even better textures to characters and items, better environmental background details, item models matching their item portraits, because not all items look like their portraits once equipped, And there is some community feedback suggesting that cutscenes and animation may still feel dated, with characters exhibiting limited movements and expressions, but overall, the updates have substantially enriched Last Epoch's environmental aesthetics and sound design, creating a more immersive and engaging experience for players. But like I said, there is room for more. Now let's move on and talk about the crafting system and itemization. And if you're a fan of crafting in games, well, you're gonna be in for a treat in Last Epoch. The game offers you one of the best crafting systems I've encountered. It's straightforward, yet deep. You collect affix shards from gear you don't need or from farming, which then can be applied to other items. The beauty here is that crafting is predictable. You don't randomly break an item unless you start using more complex glyphs and runes. Each item has a forging potential, limiting how much it can be upgraded, which adds a layer of strategy without unnecessary frustration. And if you encounter unique items with legendary potential, you can bring them to the Eternity Cache Forge that is at the end of the Temporal Sanctum dungeon, and fuse them together with an exalted item to create powerful legendary items, based on the level of the legendary potential. Or if you encounter unique items with Weaver's Will, you can then basically level up these items by equipping them and using them in combat, evolving them into higher, powerful legendary items. Another way to get powerful and legendary items is via the Nemesis system that was added with the Harbingers of Ruin patch. You encounter a Nemesis on the map, click on it, check what items it offers, and if you like them or need them, you can click Challenge to fight the Nemesis and get your items on the spot after its defeat. Or you can choose to empower the Nemesis, which in return makes the Nemesis more powerful, but also the items get better stats, and after 3 empowerments, you fight the Nemesis one final time and get your upgraded items after its defeat. And obviously, if you do not like anything it has, you can just simply click on Banish and banish it forever, resetting the next Nemesis that you encounter. Now, another way to obtain loot in this game is via factions. You have 2 starting factions. One is the Circle of Fortune, which is your solo self-found system where you cannot trade with other players unless they are also part of the Circle of Fortune. Now, farming items in the Circle of Fortune is done via prophecies. You select the type of item category you want to farm, buy the prophecy, slot it in the correct socket and constellation, and then you select what prophecies you want to do. And when you complete that prophecy, you get loot from that category. Now, the other faction is the Merchants Guild, and this is your traditional auction house type trading, which is driven by the current season economy. Now, the third faction is the Forgotten Knights, but that one is dedicated to the Nemesis system and a pinnacle boss from the endgame, Aberoth, which I will talk more in detail in a dedicated video for the pinnacle boss. Now, the final method to obtain powerful loot in this game is via 4 types of loot lizards. These lizards appear randomly on the map and need to be killed quickly or else they disappear. But once they're killed, you get affix shards or runes or different random loot, all of them together. Now, the 4 type of loot lizards are blue for idols, yellow for rare items, orange for unique items, purple for exalted items, and green for relic set items. Honestly, having so many options to gain loot from and also to customize to a certain degree what you get is really awesome, and I'm glad EHG decided to implement this in the game. Now, a highlight of Last Epoch related to items is the loot filter system. Managing the abundance of loot is crucial for an efficient and enjoyable gaming experience. A well-crafted loot filter not only streamlines your gameplay but also enhances your progression by highlighting valuable items and hiding unnecessary ones. The loot filter system in Last Epoch allows you to customize which items are displayed during your adventure. By setting specific rules, you can emphasize items with desired attributes, recolor them for visibility, or hide those that don't meet your criteria. This customization ensures that you focus on gear that enhances your build, reducing screen clutter and decision fatigue. Therefore, mastering the loot filter in Last Epoch is a pivotal step towards optimizing your gameplay experience. Now, I want to talk about the dungeons and the Arena of Champions that are present in Last Epoch. The first dungeon you will encounter is the Lightless Arbor, located beneath the Last Refuge in the Ruined Era. To access it, you need a Lightless Arbor key obtained from enemy drops, timeline bosses, loot chests, or the Arena of Champions. The unique mechanics this dungeon offers are called Darkness and Pyre Amber and Kindlings. The dungeon itself is enveloped in darkness, enhancing enemy damage and resistances. You are accompanied by a Pyre Amber, a luminous crystal that illuminates your surroundings. This amber can be sent to specific locations using the illumination ability and recalled as needed. Taking damage while the amber is with you reduces its light radius, but it can be recharged by collecting amber from defeated amber elementals. Throughout the dungeon, you will also encounter large piles of vegetation called kindlings. Standing near them with the Pyre Amber gradually ignites these piles, clearing the paths you need to progress through the dungeon. The dungeon itself culminates in a battle against the mountain beneath, a massive entity with 2 distinct phases. In phase 1, you must ignite 2 kindlings located at the top corners of the platform by using the Pyre Amber. The boss employs various attacks, including boulder falls, summon minions, and ground slams. Avoiding these mechanics is crucial. Phase 2 starts after igniting both kindlings and entering the boss to confront the Stone Titan's heart. This phase involves dodging mines, dealing with summoned enemies, and avoiding various projectiles and area of effect attacks. Maintaining mobility and awareness is key to your success. And upon defeating the boss, you gain access to the Vaults of Uncertain Fate, a treasury offering substantial rewards, where you spend gold to select modifiers that influence the loot you obtained, balancing risk and reward. And obviously, the dungeon also offers unique items exclusive to its boss, with drop rates varying by the dungeon tier you selected. The second dungeon is called the Soulfire Bastion and is located in the Imperial era near Lake Leoth in the Fellwood. To access it, well, you need a key like with the previous dungeon, which can be obtained from random enemy drops, Thailand bosses, loot chests, or the Arena of Champions. The unique mechanics of this dungeon are as follow. First, the Soulfire Shield. Upon entering, you gain the Soulfire Shield ability, allowing you to toggle immunity between fire and necrotic damage types. Mastery of this mechanic is crucial for survival, especially during the boss encounters. And the second mechanic is collecting souls from defeated enemies, which serve a dual purpose. The first one being defense, where you utilize souls to power the Soulfire Shield, switching immunities as needed. And the second one being rewards, where accumulated souls are used to trade with the Soul Gambler after defeating the dungeon's boss. Speaking of the boss, this dungeon's boss is named Cramoris, who is a formidable adversary wielding both fire and necrotic attacks. The battle takes place in an arena where the floor periodically alternates between fire and necrotic damage. Now, to defeat this boss, you need to pay attention to two things. First, floor indicators, where you monitor the floor's appearance to determine its current damage type and adjust your Soulfire Shield accordingly. And the second one is attack patterns, because Cramoris employs a variety of attacks, including area of effect attacks, summon minions, and projectile attacks. Your success on defeating this boss hinges on your ability to swiftly switch between immunities and respond to Cramoris' diverse attack patterns. Now, once the boss is defeated, you'll be rewarded with exclusive unique drops from Cramoris himself, with certain items being available only at higher dungeon tiers. And alongside the dropped items, you get to trade with the Soul Gambler, where you trade the souls you collected during your dungeon's run for items. This mechanic provides opportunities to acquire powerful gear, including items with unique affixes. Now, last but not least, the third dungeon, the Temporal Sanctum. Located in the Ruined Era, the Temporal Sanctum is accessible from the Ruined Coast just after defeating Otrek the Survivor. You enter it via a key, like the rest of the dungeons, and the key drops from the same places like the rest. Now, the unique mechanic this dungeon offers is called Temporal Shift, where you can toggle between the Divine Era and the Ruined Era. This mechanic is essential for navigating obstacles, avoiding enemies, and managing boss mechanics. Now, this dungeon consists of multiple floors, each with distinct layouts in both eras. You must utilize the temporal shift to progress, as certain paths may be blocked in one era but open in the other. Throughout the dungeon, you will encounter enemies from both eras who present unique challenges, requiring players to adapt their strategies accordingly. The boss of this dungeon is called Chronomancer Jolra, who has a range of abilities like Catastrophic Implosion, a screen-wide void damage attack that can be avoided only by switching eras, Dimension Tier, an area of effect attack that leaves damaging zones on the ground, Pillars, structures that behave differently in each era, requiring strategic temporal shifts to manage, Healing Fountain, a construct that heals Jolra, which players should prioritize destroying, Frigid Tide, a frontal cone attack dealing cold damage, and Unraveling Decay, which is a set of rotating beams that necessitate precise positioning to avoid. Success in this encounter demands a thorough understanding of these mechanics and adept use of the temporal shift ability. But once you defeat Jolra, you will be rewarded with exclusive unique drops, with certain items being available only at higher dungeon tiers, and you will also unlock the Eternity Cache, which is a unique type of forge that lets you fuse a unique item that has legendary potential with an exalted item to create powerful legendary gear. Now let's move on and talk about the Arena of Champions, which is a structured endgame challenge where you will face 50 waves of increasingly difficult enemies, culminating in a boss battle against one of 3 champions. Unlike the Endless Arena, which tests endurance over limitless waves, the Arena of Champions offers a finite yet intense combat experience. The arena is located in the Champion's Gate within the Divine Era. To reach it, you need to travel to the Wengari Fortress waypoint, head west to Kolheim Pass, and continue southwest until you arrive at the Champion's Gate. And of course, to access the arena, you'll need a key. The arena's mechanics consist of 50 waves with checkpoints at wave 10, 20, and 30. At each checkpoint, players choose between 2 modifiers that affect subsequent waves, balancing increased difficulty with enhanced rewards. The modifiers can increase enemy health and damage but also improve loot quality. Strategic selection is crucial to manage risk and reward effectively because you have a single attempt at the arena, so if you die during the run, the attempt ends and a new key is required for another try. At wave 50, you face one of the 3 champions. Ulfric Wolfmaw, a Primalist champion who utilizes skills from the Beastmaster and Shaman Masteries, dealing physical, cold, and lightning damage. The second one is the Crimson Blade, a rogue champion, which employs Blade Dancer skills, characterized by agility and speed, dealing physical, poison, and fire damage. And the third one is Vion the Arsenal, a Sentinel champion, who wields skills from the Paladin and Forgeguard Masteries, dealing physical and fire damage. Defeating one of the selected champions yields various rewards, including unique items specific to each boss. Ulfric Wolfmaw may drop the unique belt Omen of Thunder, the Crimson Blade may drop the unique ring Penumbra, and Vion the Arsenal may drop the unique boots Vion's Chariot. Successfully completing a run unlocks higher tiers of the arena, offering increased challenges and better rewards. Now, let's move on and talk about one of the most important things in Last Epoch, and that is the endgame. Last Epoch offers a rich endgame experience centered around the Monoliths of Faith, a system that provides players with challenging content, diverse rewards, and opportunities for character progression. The Monoliths of Faith is the primary endgame system in Last Epoch, accessible after completing or skipping the campaign. Players can enter the Monolith from the End of Time hub, engaging in various timelines, each representing alternate realities with unique narratives and challenges. Each timeline consists of a series of interconnected zones called echoes, which are individual missions within a timeline, each with specific objectives and modifiers that affect enemy difficulty and loot quality. Successive echoes increase in complexity, requiring strategic planning and adaptability. You progress through these echoes, facing escalating challenges and earning rewards. Completing echoes also grants stability, unlocking major timeline quests and bosses. Completing a timeline culminates in a boss encounter, granting access to new timelines and powerful blessings. Corruption, introduced by defeating the Shade of Oribus, enhances difficulty but also improves rewards, encouraging players to balance risk and reward. And as mentioned before, upon completing a timeline, players choose from various blessings, which are permanent buffs that enhance character performance both within and outside the monolith. After the Harbingers of Ruin patch, the Harbinger system was introduced, which is an endgame feature designed to provide players with challenging encounters and rewarding progression. Each Harbinger absorbs abilities from the defeated timeline boss, creating unique and challenging fights. The first Harbinger encounter is unlocked upon defeating the timeline boss in the final level 90 normal monolith timeline. Subsequent Harbingers are encountered in empowered timelines, at progressively higher corruption levels. Defeating Harbingers advances your rank in the Forgotten Knights faction, an endgame group that tracks Harbinger progress. Each rank offers specific bonuses, such as increased chances for valuable drops and enhanced item crafting potential. After defeating all 10 Harbingers, players unlock the ability to challenge Abaroth, the pinnacle boss. This encounter requires Harbinger Eyes, which are keys dropped by defeating Harbingers. Abaroth is a formidable boss, offering players a challenging encounter with unique mechanics and rewards. The battle is noted for its dynamic phases and immersive design, providing a thrilling experience for endgame players. Now, as I previously mentioned, I will cover Abaroth in a dedicated video as changes to the Pinnacle boss system are coming in the Season 2 patch, including a Uber version of Abaroth. So once those are live, I will cover the changes and the new additions. Throughout the video, I mentioned new updates coming to several parts of the game. Well, here is the rest of what is coming in Update 1.2, Tombs of the Erased. We get a new faction called the Weaver faction, which is an enigmatic force tied to time and faith, and players will have to interact with them to modify and manipulate monolith timelines. This opens up new strategic possibilities in the endgame progression. And alongside the new faction, we get new types of echoes called Woven Echoes, which introduce unique encounters and Weaver-themed rewards. We also get new zones and areas where we can expect ancient tombs, forgotten catacombs, and desolate cemeteries populated with undead horrors and new elite enemies called champion enemies that will drop new affixes for us. We're also getting WASD movement. We get new inventory tab systems for better sorting, better filtering, and easier organization of loot, and dungeon key charms which will help us progress faster through the dungeons. The crafting system is set to receive significant enhancements also. Players will have access to new crafting materials designed to enhance the endgame experience. A notable addition is the ability to shatter set items into crafting shards and then use these shards to craft new items. The update also introduces new unique items and gear sets, expanding the possibility for fluid build diversity. Now the time has come for my final thoughts and verdict hammer to fall, and I can safely say that Last Epoch stands as a refreshing addition to the action RPG genre. One of my favorite things about Last Epoch is its skill customization system, where each ability branches into its own meaningful tree of modifications. And I think this is one of the components where the game shines brightest, at least in my opinion. And I think it is an ingenious approach because it empowers you to craft unique builds without the anxiety of permanent decisions. And that is thanks to its generous respec system that encourages you to experiment a lot. Now, my second favorite thing that a game offers is the crafting system, and I personally believe this is the other bright shining component of the game, because it strikes a meaningful balance between accessibility and depth, offering a refreshingly deterministic approach that empowers you through thoughtful affix targeting and customization. The game's quality of life features also deserve particular praise. From comprehensive in-game explanation to intuitive loot filters, Last Epoch shows respect to the player's time and intelligence. Now, visually, the game presents a polished aesthetic. While not revolutionary, it does deliver consistent atmosphere and clarity. Now, as much as I like this game, and I said a lot of nice things about it, there are some things that I wish it had from the beginning, like more skills per mastery, more masteries per base class, and a lot more content for the ancient era. And to be clear, I personally do not consider these as negative points. Like I said, these are things I wished the game had since it launched. And I do feel that at some point EHG will implement these in one way or another, because one of my wishes is already in the works. The ancient era content. Some time ago, EHG showed a roadmap of what are the next big updates, as big seasonal updates, I mean, and the ancient era was on the list. So there is hope. Now, there is one component of the game that I haven't touched in this review, and that is the in-game shop. And I did not cover it because it's not really good. Sorry, HG. For the record, you only have cosmetic items, so there's no pay to win or pay for convenience items, which is super awesome, and I hope those items never see the light of day in this game. But the cosmetic items that are present are very few in number and are not very cool looking. Sorry, HG. But these are my honest thoughts and opinions about them, and I really do hope you guys bring in more items that are cool looking. And for the record, Season 2 will bring skill cosmetics, so who knows, maybe we'll get a big surprise with the shop once the update drops. I don't know. Let's hope so. Now, if you're the type of player that wants a ton of classes, masteries, items, and hours upon hours of endgame content, then Last Epoch is not the game for you. At least not at the moment. But if you're the type of player that enjoys a more relaxed ARPG experience with exceptional build customization, a awesome skill system, and cool crafting, then Last Epoch will deliver hours of enjoyable gameplay. And with all of this being said, I truly believe it is worth to purchase the game, especially since it has a one-time price of $35. Now, if you play and enjoy Last Epoch, drop a comment below with your favorite mastery and build, and let's start a cool conversation. And until next time, you know what to do.